July 20, 2023. This is the S&P 500 2000 tick chart of the eFutures Mini on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. There's only one piece of economic data that came out today, which was the unemployment claims. Came out around 5:30 in the Pacific Standard. Didn't really look like it moved the market. For the most part, in the early morning hours in the pre-market, it was in a trading range, and into the open, it looked like it was respecting the top of the trading range. Then there was a sell-off that just kind of kept going. It made one big leg attempt to try to reach back to the top, and then it came back down, consolidated, and sold off in two additional legs. So this is definitely a change from what happened the previous days where there were strong rallies, as you can see. Strong rally, and there was a consolidation here, almost looked like a topping pattern, then a sell-off, and then it seemed like a kind of a gradual struggle of the bulls trying to bring the prices back up, but then eventually prices just came back down. I saw I saw only a few trades today, and I think there are only maybe three high probability trades. One of them I took and I was green. The other two I missed. One of them I wasn't even at my desk to take it. And then the second one I was looking at it and I think I overthought it, and it turned out to be, in hindsight, a pretty good trade. So I'm going to go into the trades now, hopefully run through this rather quickly. I drew my pre-market highs and lows here. And of course, I have my trend channels going up and down. This is just for me to get better at my chart reading, but I don't take any trades in the pre-market, mainly because I'm not awake. This is all in Pacific Standard Time. The first trade I saw is actually a new low here. You can see it pushes up. This is actually your first entry short right here. Very clean, very more than just one tick. Second, first entry short, pulls back. A second entry short is formed right here once it breaks below here. And when I saw this flushed down, but it didn't break the EMA, then the second candle came up and it formed. Now, technically, this bull candle is an inside bar of this red candle, but it's showing so much strength and so much momentum, and the EMA seems to be holding. I also had the shortened trend channel going up, and I saw a break, and I knew, well, I don't know, but I suspect prices want to test this recent high. So I made one attempt here, and this candle kind of came back down. You notice that these two candles are actually inside of this one. So came back down, and once this one went up and actually broke above this candle here, this red one here, I felt like there was enough momentum because it was so strong to actually get a scalp out of it. So what I did was actually dropped a limit order, not even one tick above the original signal bar, which is this guy. I dropped it right at the highs. So as I saw, this is the first entry short, second entry short failure. Now technically it hasn't failed on this green candle, and it has failed on this red candle because this red candle actually breaks above this candle here. So I saw it as a failure, and then this one gave me a little more confirmation that it was probably a worthwhile trade. So I entered here, was able to get my scalp. That was the one and only trade that I took. Then prices continue moving up. I did see a second entry long here, but I don't like it because if you look at it here as a new high, first entry long was the first attempt of this break of this channel. So it's first attempt to try to touch this high, pulls back, and this second second attempt here, the second entry long. Now in another context, it would be pretty decent, but this is too far from the EMA, even though it's a good signal bar. So you're weighing a good signal bar against the fact that it's far from the EMA. And I didn't see that there was enough room here, or I was concerned there wasn't enough room here to scalp out confidently to the top. I mean, technically there is, but I just wasn't sure. So I actually left that trade alone. If this candle had actually come back down close to the EMA and closed just like it did, very bullish, then I would have felt like it was a worthwhile trade there. So in hindsight, I mean, it turns out it worked, but you don't know that in real time. Then I saw it's a new high here. It makes a first entry long. It's a very good signal bar for first entry long, but I don't want to trade a first entry. And there's a second entry long here. Second entry long is a good signal bar. It's a good signal bar. It's above the EMA. EMA is kind of flattening out. There is enough room to this top where I feel like this is probably in a trading range. Now, earlier I did have this slightly lower, thinking that this might have been a slight overshoot. Then I thought about it later and I kind of dragged it up here, especially when this was confirming that this is the top of the range. So this is actually a decent trade to potentially have taken, I thought. So I thought it was maybe like a possible trade. Everything seemed to have been going for it. Plus this was coming off a potential fail breakout. So fail breakout, push up once, pull back, and it would be getting ready to do a second push up because this is what you would see in real time. Just this candle. And there's enough room to make it to the top here. Now, what makes this different than this one? Well, this one certainly is already a little bit higher than this one, right? And this one, I don't know that it's actually in a range yet because it's just the first break. And its first break push up once, yes, it could make a second push up, or it could push up and then it can make another push back down before it reverses up. So I don't know. So I had to skip that one. And prices continue moving. It confirms that I'm in a trading range now. There's no setup here, unfortunately. And then it flashes, well, it doesn't flash, but it flushes down. And this is a beautiful, very, very deliberate, very organized sell-off. And unfortunately, there was no clean entries that I could find to get on this. Even when I came back to the EMA, I was watching closely. Unfortunately, you only get a first entry short. You get a second entry short here, but it's too far from the EMA. The trade's already been made. On top of that, if you take a short here, you're going to be selling into the lows, which is really risky. Price thing just kept dropping down. There's nothing I could do but just watch and wait. I draw this channel here, and it seems to fit pretty well. So this is actually the first break. I did see a new low here, first entry short. Technically, you don't have a second entry short yet until you get to here. The second entry short, you definitely, it is showing that it is bearish bias at this point. However, this is selling after breakout, so it's selling above the EMA, and there might be a bounce here. So even though I think this channel wants to test the lows, I'm a little hesitant to take this entry here just because it feels a little premature. I need a little more price action to give me direction. So I just wait. Prices then continue moving up. I draw this channel going up. I have 1, 2, 3 confirmations here, and then I have 1, 2 confirmations on the top. So I'm feeling pretty confident that this might be acting in this light green range. Tests again. Unfortunately, I don't see a good entry or a good setup to take an entry on. Prices then kind of chop back down. It falls into this shorten trend channel. There is a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. It's a terrible signal bar. This is technically a third entry long, but I'm not trading third entries. The prices kind of chop around. It moves back up. I don't see any clean setup. I did see this new low here, first entry short, second entry short. But second entry short, I don't want to be shorting when it's above the EMA on something that's a little unclear. And plus, it feels a little congested. These candles are a little more, the bodies are a little bit smaller than the entire length of the candle, so I just kind of left it alone. I do see this setup here, which I saw as a new high, first entry long. Technically, here's the second entry long. I don't like this second entry long just because it's a signal bar is decent, but it's below the EMA. EMA hasn't convinced me enough that it's going to be strong enough to give me a clear bullish bias. So I had to leave it alone. I decided if I saw this, I had to wait for a confirmation. And I do get the confirmation right here. So you get first entry long, second entry long, and then you get a higher low, maybe higher level, higher low micro double bottom. And it is pushing above, very strongly above here. So this entire candle engulfed here. So I thought this is potentially a trade here. It is with the EMA cutting right through it. So it's a little bit riskier, but there's enough room to the top. So at this point, I'm thinking there's a break of this ascending channel. It made one push up, pull back. This could be a second attempt up now. So if I were to take this trade, I'd put it one tick above this original signal bar right here, 40, 45, 83, 75. So technically I would have just barely gotten filled here. Chopped around. My stop would have been below the double micro bottom. If that wasn't even convincing enough, it looked like there's a new low here. First entry short, second entry short, and here's a potential failure. This candle technically causes the second entry short to fail, but I don't like the looks of this candle, so I would have waited. And then as this one flashed up, if you were entered on this higher low, you're still in this trade and you're still safe. And this candle most likely would have given you the profit on the higher low entry. And if you weren't and you got in on the failed second entry short, first entry short, second entry or failure, I would have taken it one tick above here. I would be in the trade, and definitely on this candle, I would have gotten my scalp. And the prices continue moving up. It looked like it would have had a runner, but depending on how you manage your runner, you could have gotten pulled back right probably on this candle here, gotten stopped out. Prices then shot down, falls into the shortened trend channel moving down. There's no clean setup. I do see this new low here, first entry short. As soon as it broke one below here, pulls up, second entry short. Now the second entry short, it's a little bit of a doji bar, but I don't like this setup for the main reason is it's uncertain. It closed above the EMA. It's the first break of this down channel right here. the first break, one push down, pulls up, second push down. Now, technically, you do want this thing might or this setup wants to go back and test the lows of this channel. However, I wasn't sure if this is one big leg down and it would want to peek out and test the highs of this channel. However, this channel I'm not too confident in, so I wasn't really going to base the trade to go trade a potential failed second entry short long going into here, so I wasn't looking for that. And I wasn't going to take a short yet just because I didn't like the setup as it was above the EMA here. Had this closed below the EMA, let's say right here in this region, then I would have felt more confident that this is a potential trade for the second entry short when it flashes down. This candle does confirm that it pulled back, and had this candle, the trigger bar, actually closed lower, it would have given me confidence in this case if I waited to potentially take a trade because there's enough room to get down to here. Turns out, if you did take this trade, you would have probably gotten your profit on one of these candles here. I think if prices continue chopping around, it makes this shallow downtrend, but I don't see any good setups yet. Prices are looking like they're in this channel now, or in this range, excuse me. Floats, and I do see the second entry short here. This is actually a very good setup that I'm kind of sad that I wasn't able to take, but I wasn't even at my desk. And it was like a new low here, first entry short, pulls back up, second entry short. The second entry short is very clean because it's a very strong bearish bar. Even though it is kind of in the middle of this trading range, it has enough room from the one tick below all the way down to where this potential support was. At one time I was thinking when I was reviewing this, now I wasn't at my desk, so I had to come back and kind of look at the candles one by one and pretend I was trading this in real time. This was enough to convince me that there was enough room to make it down to here, even when the trading range was here. Technically, you're selling into the short of this, excuse me, you're shorting into the lows of this trading range. But you were to drag it down, and it looks like the trading range fit a little bit better here. There's enough room to make it down to the bottom. But unfortunately, this trade happened, and it turned out it would have worked out pretty well. Even if you had a runner, you would have been able to trail this runner and most likely gotten stopped out in this big green candle. As it's continue moving down, moves up, it's chopping, falls into this other trading range, but I don't see a good, clean, safe setup. I do see this failed second entry long, which is new high here. Technically, this new high is made here, but since it touched so many times, it only made one tick up higher here. I count this as a new high. First entry long, second entry long. Now, the second entry long has a rejection, and when it fails after this candle, you're pretty convinced that it's probably failing. But the problem with this setup is it feels a little congested because these previous 6 candles were all very small side by side. On top of that, if you wait for this candle to close and you want to take one tick lower here, you run into the concern of potentially hitting the previous low here. Now this, until this time, this was the low of the day. This is the lowest time it's gotten to the day. So you'll be shorting right into the lows, anticipating a further push down, which may or may not happen, but it feels a little risky because you're kind of shorting after a lot of the price action has been exhausted, but you don't know that. Turns out if you did sell, there is more selling that goes on and would have pushed down. However, you don't know that in real time, so you would be kind of taking a gamble selling into the lows. Then prices continue moving, chops up. This is getting a little bit late in the day now. I don't see any really good clean setups. There are second entries, but they don't feel high confidence or high probability. Then prices chop around. Looks like it's respecting the EMA. The EMA itself is kind of flattening, but it is gradually moving up. And as you can see, price action is getting pretty congested. And of course, in the last 10 minutes, as is always, the last 10 minutes, there's a lot of price action, but it's too volatile. So I don't trade usually during that time. And it kind of just chops into the close. So overall, I saw not that many setups, but out of the setups I saw, I think there were probably three high probability trades. This one here that I took right near the open, the second one here, the second entry long, and then the second entry short, which was a very clean setup. Unfortunately, I wasn't there to take it. So hopefully that was helpful.